A lot of farmers were hurting even before the tariffs got imposed. I mean, agriculture was not doing well overall in aggregate here. If, in fact, they do come up with a deal, President Trump comes with a deal that we have soybean purchases and things like that, will that turn around pretty quickly?
Well, but the odd thing is, I mean, the companies that have really been hurting in doing business in China are due to technology transfers or stealing of intellectual property. Nothing to do with farmers. So in an odd way, they're a bit of a pawn. I mean, they've had no problem with their business with China, yet they're bearing the brunt right now of the trade battle or trade war we're having with China.
Now, there was this Freakonomic podcast yesterday that Gary Cohn went on, the former senior economic advisor to President Trump, and he basically said there, to use his word, desperate at the White House to get a deal done because President Trump wants to get a deal done to help the markets. Because, as you know, he sort of gauges his success, apparently in part because the S&P, how the S&P is doing. How desperate are they?
I think the president likes tweetable wins, whether that's USMCA, which I know you, Ambassador Heyman, just talked about, or China. He wants something to show he gets a tweetable win that will bounce the market up. I would say, just on the farmers also thinking about it, there was a lot of support for an outcome. There's not a lot of support for our tactics. And I hear that over and over again. But people are cautious about saying anything about the tariffs because they go, well, maybe he will be successful. I wouldn't do it this way. I don't like it that way. But the people are kind of keeping their powder dry.
So you were very directly involved in trade when you were running Ex-Im Bank. And you said some companies have been hurting on things like intellectual property, subsidies, things like that. Some of the hard things to get done. How important is it that this be a really big substantive deal as opposed to let's just get a deal done, buy some more stuff, maybe have some things go on? I mean, the markets might react favorably to just any deal at this point.
Well, I think markets don't like uncertainty. There's enough global uncertainty going on between Brexit, our own elections, elections throughout Western Europe and so forth. So I think markets don't like that uncertainty. On the other hand, if we really solve some of the technology transfers and intellectual property theft, what that will do is encourage more companies to set up operations in China. And that is somewhat contrary to what the president wants to happen. He wants more operations here in America. So I think there is a bit of a division and a bit of conflict going on in the White House. Exactly what do we really want?
But the Chinese probably have a pretty good sense of what they want. As negotiators, they usually have their act together and they're all together. Are they willing, do you think, to actually make substantive concessions on things like intellectual property, subsidies, market access?
Well, they will say that, and the question will be always enforcement. You know, rule of law is not something that is really followed there. So in terms of one of the unique things about our country, one of the best things about America is that we have a rule of law, we have a court system, and we will find American companies in violation in favor of foreign company. That happens hardly in any other country in the world. And that's a real treasure we have as this country. So
the president said he likes tariffs. He's been very open about that, and he's demonstrated it by imposing a lot of tariffs. One of the other things that Mr. Cohn had to talk about yesterday was who in the White House really likes tariffs. This is what he said.
Tariffs don't work. Every PhD economist that I've ever come across would agree, I would say probably 99.5% with what you just said.
No, I think it's 99.99999. There's only a 0.1.
But the one that doesn't is in the White House, which is Peter Navarro.
There's only one in the world that we know of.
Okay, so Peter Navarro, is that your sense of it? Is this a lot
Well,
of Peter
a good
Navarro?
friend of mine, his father's a professor of law, and he refers to Peter Navarro as the 10th dentist, meaning 9 out of 10 dentists say you should floss and brush your teeth every day. There's always one. You always wonder, who is that 10th dentist? Peter Navarro is the 10th dentist.
At the same time, he wouldn't be in the White House if President Trump didn't want to hear that, I assume.
Right. Obviously, President Trump agrees with that advice, and therefore he's very close to the president. And it's one reason I think Gary Cohn has said why he's not there, because his point of view was really not getting a lot of traction.